Okay, so Beto Dog becomes a multi-million-dollar success. But there's other things that are happening around this time. You get arrested for possession of steroids, so you're still juicing, even though you're not playing sports anymore.
No, I got arrested because I had the gear at my house, and I was actually selling it to an NFL player that got pulled over with Vicodin, and they took his phone, and he was playing for the Chargers at the time, and they literally took his phone and they found out that it was me because they read it through his text messages. He just bought 100 Vicodin from me, and they raided my house the next day. Well, guess what? I had a Vicodin bottle with 130 pills, and the bottle was supposed to only have 90, so they charged me for that. And then in my refrigerator, I had growth hormone and steroids, so they charged me for that. So that's why those charges happen.
Right. You lose your real estate license.
Yep.
And was it at that point that you kind of became a drug dealer? You pivoted from the betting thing? Because the betting thing was successful, right?
The betting thing was very successful.
So why go into the drugs?
I'll tell you why. The betting thing got really good. Really good. Better, like we talked about, Macho Sports got indicted. And guess what? I went to Macho Sports clients and said, hey, you guys have nowhere to bet. Bet with Beto Dog. So I blew up. I was almost in every state. And Vlad, I said to myself, well, if I'm in every state, why don't I try to just take this thing international? Why don't I go to like Canada, Mexico, and handle all North America? And that's what I did. I told my sub bookies, I said, hey, we're going international. It's Beto Dog International now. And one of my biggest bookies in Newport Beach had a customer from Mexico. And he didn't tell me who it was, but I remember watching this account. In the first week, he lost $260,000. And this agent of mine brought me a duffel bag, all cash. I'm like, okay, you got a whale. I said, and he paid on Monday. That's unheard of in this business. I said, you got a whale. Keep him happy. Keep him happy. Whatever they need, remember, we offer a concierge service. If they want to go to Vegas, we don't want them going to Vegas because they'll lose their money there. They bet with Beto Dog. They can play blackjack with me. They can have girls. They can have drugs. They can fly to Costa Rica, stay at my mansion, whatever they want. Keep them happy.
Okay, so you actually have gambling houses and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have, yeah. So that was our niche. If you gamble with Beto Dog, you could fly to Costa Rica. We had a beautiful mansion. We had NFL players hanging out with us all the time because they're my ex-teammates. And now all these guys that are gambling on sports are hanging out with the guys they're gambling on. So it's like a win-win for them.
Was there, let me just stop you for a second. Because, there was the whole NBA bust that happened with people betting on their own games and faking injuries. And then it tied it to the mafia with like people getting ripped off at card games. Was there anything, because you got gamblers and the actual players and they're all hanging out and there's drugs and there's betting and there's everything. Is there skimming or betting on your own games or anything else like that?
When I was doing it, no. But there is, of course. I remember the first bookmaker I've ever met came to me when I graduated from SC, and he put $100,000 in front of my face, and he put another $100,000 right here. And he says, I'll give you $100,000 if you tell Matt Leinart not to cover the spread in next season's game, because he knew I was friends with Matt Leinart.
Huh.
And I had already accepted my job making six figures. It was tempting, don't get me wrong, right? And I was like, I'm not doing it. That's integrity. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to jeopardize my brother Matt Leinart's career. So I turned it down. But it happens all the time.
Aha.
Yes,
okay.
It does happen.
Okay. Well, you get introduced to a guy from Mexico who was working with the cartel. I'm not going to say which cartel, but the cartel.
Yes.
What happens next?
So that's the client I'm talking about. Losing $250,000, literally 3 weeks in a row. He loses $750,000 total. And I'm like, wow, you got away. I'll keep him happy. I'm telling the sub-bookie. And finally, I was happy this happened. He was finally ready to hit. It was a Sunday night, and he had a 5-team parlay, and he had the Raiders. And I'm calling his bookie. I'm like, hey, your customer down south is about to hit. I said, I want you to pick up the duffel bag. I want you to pay him exactly at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Right when that guy's up, I want you paying him. I don't know how you're going to do it, but pay him. Because I want to show him how we do it at Bet-O-Dog, because it's unheard of for a bookie to pay someone on a Monday. Usually they wait till Thursday. They collect from the losers, and then they go pay the winners on Thursday if they're lucky. So I had a different motto. If you pay Monday, people are going to realize that you're bigger than life in the sports betting world. And that was my motto, pay on Monday. So now I had this guy ready to hit. He cracked me for, I think it was 240 or 200, yeah, it was 240,000. Raiders 5-team parlay, cracks me. I tell the bookie, hey, I'm dropping off the bag, boom. Sure enough, 8 a.m. he pays him on Monday.
How much was it?
240,000.
Way less than he lost.
Way less than he lost.
Yeah.
I'm just basically giving his money back, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But listen, that's the whole point. He thinks he's winning, right? He won for a week, and now he's feeling good. And that, as a bookmaker, you want that. You want your customers to win, because if they lose every week, guess what? They're not going to play with you. They're eventually going to say, "Fuck this! I'm no good at this." And so, in a bookmaker's dream is to be able to collect and see your customer pays, and then eventually give them a little back to make them feel good. And for me, that's that feeling. And I already knew he paid, so I wasn't worried about that. But to be able to pay him just a little of his money back is how you're going to keep this guy for life. Mm-hmm. And the sub bookie, he calls me and he goes, "Hey, I got to see you." And I said, "What do you got to see me for?" He just paid him, right? He goes, I got something I got to give you. And he comes to see me, and he gives me an encrypted phone. He says, "This is from my uncle." I'm like, "Your uncle?" He's like, "Yeah, he's my customer." Okay, well, I thought he was your client. He goes, "No, it's my uncle." Here, so I get this encrypted phone. That's a BlackBerry. He goes, "It doesn't have any kind of microphone on it. You can't call on it. There's no camera, and there's no GPS." He says, "Everything's taken out." I'm like, "Okay, so what's the password?" There's 2 passwords to get in, and then the third one, you're finally in this email system. There's a company called Phantom Secure out of Canada that created these. They're like $1,000 each for the phone, and it's like the service is $600 a month. It's ridiculous. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? So I'm opening this email, and it says, "I like the way you do business." And it just says some random email address. It's like a server that's offshore. You could tell, like, this is just an email system. And I'm like, okay, nice to meet you. Hey, appreciate your business. Hey, anything you need, I'm here. I offer this concierge service for my VIP customers. It was one of my things. Anybody that's a VIP customer, I do this for. I have guys flying in from North Carolina on private jets to hang out with me in Costa Rica just because they're VIP customers. So I told this guy, "Hey, if you ever want to come to Costa Rica, come to the U.S., whatever you want." He goes, No. He goes, "I know you're a big bookie in the U.S. I have a favor." I'm like, "What is it?" He goes, "Can you help me move some money?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I need you to drop off cash, and whatever you drop off for me, I give you 10% on the dollar." I'm like, "That's fucking easy. I got cash throughout the United States. This is simple." He's like, "Sometimes I'll need 100 grand dropped off, and I'll give you 110 wherever you want it." I'm like, "Okay, this is perfect." So I remember the first day, he's like, "Hey, can you drop off $100,000 in San Diego?" It was Vista. I said, "No problem." I call one of my agents, and I say, "Hey, drop off $100,000 at this address in Vista." 10 minutes later, it's done. And we'll call him El Jefe. I say, "Hey, El Jefe, I just took care of that for you." He said, "Great. Where do you want the 110,000? 100 plus the 10%. I said, "Well, my office is in Costa Rica. Why don't you send it to an offshore account over there?" Boom. 20 minutes later, I got my money in Costa Rica. I just made 10% on my money. And this happens for weeks. Now, hey, Florida, North Carolina, all these little, what we call safe houses, right? But at the time, I don't know. I'm just moving money. I'm good at it. And then he says, "Hey, can you pick up money for me?" I'm like, "Pick up? I thought I'm dropping off." He goes, "No, I need you to pick up." I said, where do you need me to pick up?" He says, "I need you to pick up in Brownsville, Texas. My people aren't allowed there." I'm like, Brownsville, Texas? So when he said my people aren't allowed there, my head starts to turn. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like, okay, $1 million? No problem. I'm doing the math in my head. That's going to be $100,000 for 10%. I said, private jet's probably, $2,500 an hour. So I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, 4 hours, that's 10,000. 4 hours back, that's 20,000. I'm like, fuck, that's a good little lick.
80,000 profit.
Right? I'm like, okay, I'm winning. And I grab my boy Tank, who's the Avalon Crip, and I tell him to grab one of his UFC fighter friends, because I'm like, fuck, I don't know, $1 million. I should probably be safe about this. So we board this turboprop and we fly into Brownsville, this private airport. And I'll never forget it, man. I pull up there and I tell El Jefe on the encrypted phone, I'm like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, where do I go? He's like, just wait. He says, wait. He says, okay, go to the parking lot. I literally get to the parking lot, and there's this gardener in this just beat up F-150. And he comes out and he gives me a duffel bag. He says, este para el jefe. He tells me, this is for the boss. I take the duffel bag. I'm like, fuck, I got to get out of here. Like, this is nuts. Like, guy's in overalls. I'm like, fuck. I get up back on the plane, and Tank's like, everything good? I said, yeah, everything's good, man. I tell the pilot, hey, we're good. We get out. We land back in the private airport in Torrance, California. There's a private airport over there. And I say, hey, El Jefe, I'm here. Where do you want this money? He says, drop it off at a stash house in, I think it was Riverside. So now I take the 100,000 and put the 900 and keep it in the duffel bag, and I take it and drop it off at a safe house. And I was like, fuck, this is great, this is great money. And I literally just start doing this all the time. And then he asked me the question that pretty much got me and cost me, 10 years of my life. He says, how would you like to do that same thing you're doing for me in the US, but in Australia? I'm like, fair enough. Like, I got an aunt in Australia. That's probably a good way to go see her. He says, what if you were making $1 million a day? I said, $1 million a day? And my head said, fuck, $1 million a day. I'm like 25 years old at the time. Like $1 million a day, man, that's money my dad's never seen, my mom's never seen. I said, I'm thinking about my dad swinging that hammer for the last 35 years, right? Like that's a lot better job than doing that for the rest of my life. And I was like, okay, $1 million a day. I said, what do I need to do? And that's when he broke it down. He said, hey, I work for the cartel. He says, I got a ton of cocaine in Australia. I'm like, a ton of cocaine? I'm reading this like, fuck. He goes, I need you to move it for me. One of my people got taken down over there. He says, I need you to move it for me. I'm like, he goes, I like the way you work. Because he's seeing me fucking move. I'll do anything for this guy. 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm messaging him. If he messages me, I'm up, and that's how I am. I'm a businessman. Any way I can make $1, I will. And I'm like, fuck, I'm thinking $1 million a day. I'm like, fuck, that sounds pretty damn good, right? And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And he says, you got to move it. I said, fuck, I don't know anything about moving product in another country. I barely moved grams in college, right? But I'm going to figure out a way. And I go back to my Rolodex, and I'm thinking, okay, who do I know? I went to USC. I played football. There was a guy, that's right, there was a guy on the baseball team that said his brother was a weed dealer, and he handled international weed. He used to send weed to all parts of the world. I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going to start. And I remember this guy was now a coach. He was getting his master's degree now, and he was coaching at USC. I literally drove to USC, and I told him, I said, hey, you remember you told me your brother was in the weed business? I said, is there any way I could fucking talk to him? He's like, what about? I said, man, I don't want to bug you. Let me just talk to your brother. He's like, my brother's in San Diego, and he's actually playing in this racquetball tournament with another guy that's in the business too, an old Italian guy. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. I need to get down there. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you his number. Go see him. I was so determined. That same day I went to San Diego, and I go meet this brother, and he's got this 65-year-old Italian dude that's in this tracksuit. And I remember seeing him, and I was like, okay, this got to be the guy he's talking about. And I'm telling the brother, I'm like, listen, I don't know if this is out of your thing, but dude, I got some of that white in another country and I need help. And he's like, I'm not in the white game, but but this guy, we'll call him Louis. Okay, we'll call him Uncle Louis. He says, Uncle Louis, he's been in the business for years, man. He's worked with the Casey family. He knows the game. He doesn't live in the U.S., but you could talk to him. So I pull him aside and I let him know what's going on. And he's like, hey, I'm not talking to you. He says, you don't talk to me in the U.S. about anything illegal. He says, I've been indicted for before. He goes, you want to talk to me about illegal stuff? You come to my country. He goes, I live in Naples, Italy. He says, but I'm not saying anything in this country. I don't trust the U.S. I said, fair enough, right? That's a true gangster.
You had to fly to Italy.
True gangster right there.
To have a conversation
Just to
with
have
him.
a conversation. That's how old school this dude was.
Okay.
But hey, $1 million a day, I'm thinking, right? Like you would go to Italy, right, for $1 million a day?
Sure.
Like anybody in my mind, in my situation would. 2 weeks later, I literally, he's back in Italy, and I fly to Italy, and he picks me up in this Fiat, in a little fucking car I barely fit in. He picks me up at the airport, gives me an Italian kiss on the cheek. He smells like shit because they got the worst body odor. And I'm like, okay. Like, he takes me to this beautiful villa. He has 2 villas on this winery. And we're literally outside of this patio, and we're speaking, and I'm telling him, I said, dude, I got cocaine in Australia. I said, I've been working for this guy. He works for the cartel. He's been, gambling with me. I'm telling him everything. He's like, son, don't waste my time. He says, nobody has cocaine in Australia. I'll tell you that right now. He says, I've been in this game for 40 years. He goes, that's the hardest place in the world to get product into. He says, don't waste my time. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, what do I do now? Like, I just came to Italy. He says, if you really have product over there, guess what? Get over there, and once you see it, then call me. He goes, but I ain't going to waste my time. And I'm like, fuck, what do I do? Fair enough, right? So what do I got to do? I got to go over there. Now I got to tell El Jefe, hey, I got a guy, but he doesn't believe me until I get over there. I'm not going to tell him that. So I tell El Jefe on the encrypted phone, okay, it's done. I got the guy. I found a buyer. I'm lying because this guy doesn't believe I even have it. So now I'm parlaying this, and I'm flying now to Australia. I go back to the U.S. I get a flight to Australia. I fly into Sydney, Australia. And now I got to play both these guys. I got the Italian in Italy, and I got El Jefe in fucking Mexico barking these orders. And I'm like, okay. El Jefe's like, hey, are you ready? I'm like, hang on, let me just get situated, right? Because I got to get this fucking Italian over here. So now this time I have already given the Italian an encrypted phone. And I get him on the encrypted phone. I said, hey, it's here. I lied to him. I said, you got to get over here. I already got El Jefe telling me it's there, so I got to bring this guy over. He goes, have you seen it? I said, I've seen it. It's here. Total bullshit. I lied to him. 2 days later, he finally arrives. He stays in this place in Coogee Beach. And it's a suburb right outside of Sydney by the Bondi Beach. And I go to him. I said, you ready? He goes, yeah, where is it? I tell El Jefe, hey, I'm ready. What do you want me to do? He says, go get a room at the Four Seasons Hotel in Sydney. He says, as soon as you're there, message me your room number. And I grab Uncle Louis. I said, let's go. We're going to the Four Seasons Hotel. I go to the front counter. I buy a room for me in cash, and I buy the room right next door for Uncle Louis in cash. I start doing some research. Anything over 2 kilos in Australia is a life sentence. So I'm fucking scared shitless. So I get to this room, 428, Uncle Louis in 426. I get inside. I message El Jefe. He says, wait right there. 30 minutes later, a guy in a DHL outfit knocks on the door and brings me this package. Like, holy shit. I pick up this package. I'm fucking shaking. I'm like, this is heavy. I'm banging on the door on 426 on the wall. I said, get over here, Uncle. He comes over. We open the box, and sure enough, there's 10 birds in there, 10 kilos. I'm like, fuck. And Uncle Louis is looking at me like, you weren't lying, kid. He takes out a knife. He cuts it open. He does a little fucking bump. He goes, this is fucking pure cocaine. He says, this is either from Bolivia, Peru, or Colombia. He says, you weren't lying. And I remember, he said, give me 30 minutes. He leaves the hotel. He comes back. He brings me a cash. $1 million in the bag for me.
$1 million?
$1 million. Okay. The price at the time was $150,000 wholesale. I was giving it to Uncle Louis for $100,000. Uncle Louis was selling it for $150,000.
Okay.